On a Monday morning, I might be helping someone to go and get their groceries in. Monday afternoon, I might be frantically trying to find someone crisis accommodation because they've been kicked out of their house.
There was a lot of drug-induced psychosis that I experienced. I was like sitting at the table, looking out the window. I fully could see the SWAT team like climbing up the building, and I was like, oh my God, like they're onto me.
Sometimes it just takes finding the person that clicks with you.
Yeah.
Keep going until you find that person. Yeah, and there's lots of those people working in the services that are out there.
Before we begin today, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're recording on, the Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to elders past and present and recognise the strength, resilience and ongoing contributions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across this country. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. All right. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Tom Darley, a psychosocial recovery coach and founder of Chameleon Psychosocial Recovery here in Perth. Tom knows mental health from both sides. He's lived with anxiety and depressive episodes himself, and he's spent years supporting people with complex mental health conditions, including psychosis, schizophrenia, trauma, and substance use. In this episode, we get into what actually happens when drugs and severe mental illness collide, why the system gets stuck trying to separate drug-induced and diagnosis, and what real-world recovery support looks like when someone doesn't fit neatly into a clinical box. Welcome to Shts Fcked. Proudly supported by our seasonal sponsors, Coach Carly, Elevate Bianco, and Your Recovery. Welcome, Tom. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And we were talking earlier about how this is your first podcast recording.
Yes. Yeah. First podcast recording, first kind of time venturing out, doing anything to put myself out there, really.
Yeah. Yeah. A bit nerve-wracking, but it's like good. It's good nerves. It's exciting. It's He's like, I'm so terrified. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, let's just get straight on into it, Tom. The first question I wanted to ask you was, when someone is in active psychosis, what do people usually misunderstand about what's actually happening for them?
So I think, if we're talking about psychosis, it's important to first address the stigma that comes with that.
Yes.
So I think for a lot of people, when they hear a word like psychosis or psychotic, it often gets kind of tangled in with words like deranged or crazy. And
True.
Yeah, that's just people's perception. And it's kind of not really fair, but that's just what's portrayed in kind of the media. You see it all the time. Psychotic is just used in really kind of negative contexts.
Yes.
So I like to always address that first. As for what's happening for someone that's experiencing psychosis, there are three main things really that kind of typify it. So firstly is hallucinations. So that's, when we say hallucinations, that's like a sensory experience of something that's not necessarily actually there or happening. So that's like seeing things that are not there, probably more commonly hearing things that aren't really there. So a lot of the people that I work with tell me about hearing voices.
Yeah.
So that seems to be a pretty common thing in psychosis. So people hear voices kind of chattering in the background. If you can imagine, if you're trying to concentrate, focus, relax, and you've just got these voices going all the time, it would just be really annoying and actually kind of debilitating in some respects.
Yeah, it would.
And then, I speak to other people who have voices that more kind of put them down, shout at them aggressively, call them names, that type of thing. So it can just be really kind of all right, scary. So that's hallucinations. Then there's delusions, which is more around the beliefs that people have when they're in psychosis. So people might have heard of delusions of grandeur, right? So that's people maybe truly believing that they are a religious figure, for example.
Yes. I've seen a few of those,
or people believing that they have superhuman abilities, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So while it might sound kind of cool and exciting, when people are experiencing that, it's really not.
Yeah.
The other kind of delusions that people might more commonly have heard of are paranoid delusions. And that's probably what I most commonly see in the people that I work with.
Yeah.
People might feel like someone's following them, or they're being watched, they're being spied on. They might feel truly like people are reading their thoughts or even putting thoughts into their minds. So again, like you can imagine that would just be really scary.
Yeah, it would be.
And again, kind of debilitating as well. And the other thing that people experience is disorganized thoughts. So that often kind of is personified by disorganized speech and actions. So in that scenario, you would see people talking in maybe a bit of a word salad. Like it can be really difficult to really make head or tail of what they're trying to communicate when they're in psychosis, or they might just be speaking in a more disjointed kind of way, going off on tangents, coming back to what they were originally saying.
Yeah, we're not coming back at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you can imagine someone in that situation, they're experiencing psychosis and then they're having that issue with speaking to people, it can be really difficult for that person to then communicate what they actually need in that moment.
Yeah.
So, you know, that with all of that in mind, it kind of just shows how scary and debilitating it can be for someone in that situation. And yet probably the prevailing perception that people have when they hear about psychosis is people react with fear or maybe at least a bit of discomfort, when in fact, it's probably worth knowing that statistically, a person who's experiencing psychosis is much more likely to be the victim of harm or exploitation than they are to be the person that's causing anyone else any harm.
Yeah, right. So, that's interesting.
I like to just try and remind people of that.
Yeah, it gives a different perspective, because I know even for myself, with my history with meth addiction, I was in that addiction for about 10 years. I was also an alcoholic for 17 years, but that wasn't the real problem. That's what I told myself. Meth was the bad one. But yeah, in using meth, there was a lot of drug-induced psychosis that I experienced. And everything that you just said in my head, I was just like, yeah, tick, 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 tick. This is exactly what I experienced. And a lot of the time when I have spoken to people about it, I have been met with like oh God, like that's hectic, or like, oh my gosh, you must have been like pretty off your rocker, like crazy, like scary. And for me in that moment, like it was scary. I know, and I don't know if this is the case for like all moments of psychosis, but I found whenever it was drug-induced, it was always fear-based. It was always something that was scary. Like I wasn't hallucinating, you know, like fucking unicorns and like chocolate fondue fountains. Like, you know, I wasn't having a good time. Like it was always things that like people were after me or something was trying to get me. And the other thing as well that I try to describe to people is I often had like all of that happening at the same time. It wasn't just one of them. It was all of them. And so I would be seeing things and it looked so real. It's not like an acid trip or, you know, going on some mushies or whatever. It's not like everything's moving and like, you know, you're tripping. Like, you know that that's not real. It looks real. And so you can't defer it from reality. And that's what was really scary, because I was like, fuck, like I don't know if this is actually happening or not. And that's what used to throw me the most. And the amount of times that I would be having these full-blown conversations and definitely not making sense, much like what you said with that whole word salad. I really related to that because there was so many times I'd be just saying all this gibberish, thinking I'm having a conversation with my mate, and then I would snap out of it for a bit and they weren't there. And I was like, oh my God, like who was I just talking to? What was happening? And it was really, really scary. And then obviously being in that drug world too, like I met a lot of people that ended up in drug-induced psychosis, met a lot of people on the street as well in that state too. And yeah, a lot of people tend to see someone like, talking to themselves and maybe shouting, maybe it is sounding like aggressive in a certain aspect. But I'm now trying to teach other people as well that if you're seeing someone even on the street experiencing that, like instead of, being worried that they're going to like attack you or, obviously walk on the line of caution always, but instead of just fearing that person, like recognizing that they're in trouble and that they need help. So calling an ambulance or something like that to help them out. So yeah, I think there's, as you said, so much stigma around it. And yeah, I think people just don't really understand the full depths of it.
Yeah. And like you said, that person going through that psychotic episode, they're usually the one that's scared. And that's why they might be shouting or yelling. And, and they truly believe that whatever is happening in that moment is actually happening. So, if, from an outsider looking in, it can look pretty scary when you see someone engaging with something that's not there. But for them, they're having a normal conversation.
Yes.
So it's just kind of approaching the situation with empathy. And I think knowledge is power, right? So the more people know about psychosis, the less they can be scared of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we're here today, right?
That's it.
And would you say, I'm just throwing in another question here, Tom, would you say that with drug-induced psychosis and maybe psychosis that's brought on by like other mental health conditions, can they look different? Those?
It can be really hard to tell.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it can be difficult to tell. And I think, you mentioned that when you've had hallucinations and delusions in the past, it's always been scary. It hasn't been nice things. I think that in my experience, that tends to be the case for most people.
Yeah.
But my kind of theory, I'd have to have a look at the science on this, but I think that if you are someone that has a more anxious disposition or you have things going on in your life at a time that are stressful, then you might be more likely to be hallucinating things that are anxiety inducing.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what I have just kind of found has been the case. And if someone's using substances, it's usually tied to mental health challenges that they're having. So they're not necessarily in a space where they're going to be imagining all these wonderful, amazing things happening because their headspace is not in the best place.
Yeah, that's so true. Because, some of the things that I saw, it was just so dumb. I remember I was in this apartment. I was hanging out with a couple of other underworld creatures doing very naughty things. And I think I'd been awake for like 3 days. So I was starting to hallucinate by that point, very much going into psychosis. And I remember I was like sitting at the table, like head of the table, looking out the window, and there's like another complex building like across from us. And I could see, like I fully could see the SWAT team like climbing up the building. And I was like, oh my God, like they're onto me, like they found me, like, oh my God. I wasn't some big honcho, by the way. Like I was not doing anything that the police would really be looking for. I was no big fish, but I got very like paranoid and so scared. And I remember it's so ironic because I remember saying to, the other like users in the room, I was like, oh my God, that's a SWAT team. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, no one else sees that. It's okay. Just me.
That's a good example of like the hallucinations and the delusions kind of working together, right? Because you're seeing something and then you've got this belief that that's genuinely happening, and those two things play into each other as well. So it can be really convincing.
It was. It was. I was so scared. And it wasn't until I actually had to sedate myself though. Like I had to take sleeping pills because I don't know if psychosis can go away without any sedation, or I don't know. I actually don't know that side of things, to be honest.
Most of the people I work with are taking antipsychotics, which tends to help. So it's difficult for me to say what could help outside of that.
Yes,
I definitely have come across things that could make it worse, but
I know for me it was, taking sleeping pills, but that was to mainly bring me down from the high. Like I just needed to to sleep. It'd been 3 days.
It's such a common pattern as well, as people take, if they're feeling down, they take something that brings them up. And if people are heightened, then they need something that's going to bring them down.
Yeah.
So it's this vicious circle kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a terrible cycle I got myself into, because I was like, okay, like, well, it's been 3 days now. I'm starting to see shit. I should probably take some pills. It was so bad. And I honestly think that made things so much worse for myself, like just mentally, physically, everything. I was just, oh my God. Yeah.
But it's the only way you know how to cope in that situation, right?
It was.
So,
I was doing my best at that time.
Yep.
Even though I would do things differently now, that was my best at the time.
Well, knowledge is power. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like 2018, 2019. Like I was going through all of that. So it wasn't actually that long ago either, but feels like a lifetime ago though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when someone is psychotic, I don't like using that word, experiencing psychosis is probably a better term, and using substances, what responses tend to escalate things and what actually helps de-escalate?
So again, it's probably important to mention that in my line of work specifically, it can be really hard to tell if someone is experiencing psychosis as a result of using substances or if that's just them having a psychotic episode as part of their diagnosis.
Of course, yes.
So when I approach someone who is experiencing psychosis, I just deal with what's in front of me.
Yeah.
But probably the main thing I would tend to say in terms of how to deal with that situation is stay calm, try and keep you cool, and just kind of read the room, I guess. Assess the situation. Is the person quite obviously paranoid about something?
Yeah.
Then don't ask questions that are going to feed into that paranoia. You know,
yes,
are they averting eye contact? Don't force eye contact with them. So just, reading the room and acting accordingly. The other thing I tend to say is don't feed into the hallucinations and delusions.
I think that's important to know. Yeah.
So it's a pretty common mistake because people just want to be agreeable and feel, and that's an attempt at being empathetic, right? Is making the person feel understood, is playing into the hallucinations, the delusions, the things that they're seeing and believing. But it's important not to do that. But at the same time, you don't want to completely outrightly dismiss those hallucinations and delusions as well.
Because that could also make things worse.
Absolutely, yeah. If you tell them, nah, mate, you're just seeing that, that's not really there.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not going to go down that well. So the kind of middle ground there, I guess, is empathy, compassion, active listening, just letting the person know that you're there to help.
Yeah.
And you're going to be there to help them in whatever way you can possibly help them.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
because that would be that I've even seen that like in movies and stuff as well, where they'll like play into the delusion, and there seems to be like the successful outcomes in the movies, right? But what are some of those dangers? Like if someone plays into that,
I guess it could just make the person feel like that. Whatever they're believing or what they're seeing, hearing is more real. Yeah. And, you know, if you're kind of backing them up on, especially if it's something that they're feeling a lot of paranoia or a lot of fear about, and then they've got someone confirming
like, yes,
that,
that's
then
happening.
That's just not going to be great for their mental health. But like I said, at the same time, if you just outright say, no, that's not happening, that might make them feel then like kind of a bit spun out, you know.
Probably even scared. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
That's something that I've been seeing a lot of on TikTok. Actually, are you on TikTok?
Not at all.
Oh my God, it's I hate the platform, but it's very good for like business and things like that. But one of the things that I've been seeing lately, which I don't know what's going on with my algorithm to the fact that I'm seeing a lot of this stuff, but it's been so concerning for me. I mean, I now like work in the space, like helping other people through, you know, addiction recovery. And my goodness, the amount of people that I've seen in psychosis. I mean, I can't assume it's drug-induced. I don't know if they have like a mental health disorder. They could. So I don't like to make those assumptions. But I'm seeing a lot of people that are experiencing these like delusions and they're sharing it with people online, and then people are either confirming it or they're doing the like, you're insane, like you're crazy, you need to go get help kind of a thing. And I'm just watching it unfold and I'm like, how are we meant to, how do we address this like in an online space? I was like, this is scary because there was like one guy who believed like the ravens. I don't even know if we have ravens in WA. Do we?
Yeah, actually, I think we mostly have ravens and people mistakenly call them crows. That's for a different podcast.
We won't go down on that. But anyway, the crows are, the ravens, sorry. The ravens, he felt like they had chosen him and they were like coming to see him every day in his backyard. I think they just really liked his tree. But
I might know this guy.
But honestly, I was actually really worried about him because I was just some of the delusions and the things that he was saying. I was like, oh goodness. I was like, I don't know like if this person's like safe, like have they got support? Like is there like someone we can contact? Like I honestly was starting to feel that way and I just felt really helpless in that moment. And then also, a lot of other people who have been like clearly in drug-induced psychosis, like they've been talking about their use and then making like these grand, delusions as well. Like I don't know. It's just really scary, like seeing that happening in the online space.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, right? Is because we're in such a globalized world.
Yes.
And, we have all these thousands, millions of connections online. Well, not me because my online presence is not great. But,
you did see that earlier.
Yeah, most people have a pretty, are connected with a lot of people out there. And there's a lot of opinions floating around that are not based in any science whatsoever. They're just, people's opinions, or like you said, they might be their own delusions. And because we're connected with so many people, once someone finds another person that has maybe a shared or similar kind of delusion, they've had shared similar hallucinations, then that could probably feel pretty good to that person to have that affirmed, but it sends them down a rabbit hole, I guess.
Yeah, it's honestly been really scary because, they keep popping up on my algorithm, like all these several people that I've seen kind of going through this. And I mean, like there's a difference between like conspiracy, right? And then just, well, actually, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. That's kind of that's a whole other area. We won't touch that. But it's just, I'm seeing these people actually like physically deteriorate as well online where I'm like, ugh, okay. Like it's just really hard. And I think, compassion and understanding what people are going through really does go a long way.
Yeah, I guess you could just hope that those people have support in their life from friends, family, any professional supports that might be able to help them in that situation.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that can be done by kind of random commenters online, unfortunately.
I know, but even like myself, like I was like, how could I respond to that? Because as you said, it's like you don't want to feed into the delusion, but you don't want to also say, hey man, like I don't think the ravens have chosen you. And like, I don't think you should say that either. So I was stuck. I kind of sat there stuck like, how do you talk to someone who's
my
in that
example
space?
Would online's a bit different, but say in a face-to-face setting, if I were to approach someone and let's say they think that they're being followed.
Yeah.
The way I would try to approach that situation would look something like acknowledging. So, that sounds really scary. For what it's worth, I can't see that anyone's following you or us right now, but I'm here to help and I'll stay with you until you feel safe. So if you want to, we can go for a walk over there. We can go and sit over here. Does that sound okay? and just kind of
I
going
like
from there.
that.
Yeah.
That's a really nice way to do it. I mean, yeah, very different to online. I definitely won't be able to do that. But yeah, I like that. I like that approach. It makes them feel like heard and understood in that moment.
I guess online, all you could really do is maybe find the link to their nearest community mental health or equivalent and share that with them and hope that they connect. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to the next one. I can go into a bit of a tangent. A lot of people avoid the complex end of mental health. What draws you towards it?
So I guess, firstly, there's my own personal life experiences. So I've gone through my own mental health challenges throughout my life. Had anxiety pretty much, since childhood, and gone through what I would classify probably as some major depressive episodes in my life. And I've seen friends and family members go through their own mental health challenges as well, gone through a degree of adversity in life. So I think that's kind of added to my passion for working in this space.
Yeah.
But I've always just been keenly interested in psychology, kind of how the brain works, how people's minds work in different ways. So I went to study psychology at university, right? So when I was studying, one of the units that really kind of caught my interest was called abnormal psychology. Probably not what I would have called it, but that's what it was called. And that was basically just a unit where we would go through the DSM-5, which is basically like the kind of go-to handbook for diagnosis for psychologists. And just learn about all these different kind of, mental health disorders, personality disorders, everything really. And it just kind of fascinated me. I found it really, really interesting. And it just kind of just built further on this passion that I already had for working in the mental health space. And then while I was studying at uni, I got a job as a support worker. So I had a caseload as a support worker of people with varying different abilities. I wasn't just working with people who had psychosocial disabilities at that time, but I did have a couple of people in my caseload whose primary diagnosis was psychosocial disability. And that essentially is what the NDIS classifies as someone who has has mental health issues to the degree where those mental health issues are impacting on their life and they're not really able to function properly. Yeah, exactly. So they're classified as a psychosocial disability. So I had a couple of people that I was working with at that time who kind of fell into that category. And I just found that I really enjoyed I enjoyed working with everyone in my caseload, but specifically I just found it really interesting to work with those people. And I just felt that I had a knack for it as well.
Okay.
It's a bit cheesy, but I've always said that, support work especially requires you to be a bit of a chameleon. And I just found that I was kind of good at that, basically just adapting to what people needed, but also kind of aligning myself with their hobbies and interests. I just found that I was always able to find some common ground. And I think, especially with the people who had those psychosocial disability diagnoses, I was able to connect a little bit more around, having been through my own mental health issues. I just found I had a bit of a knack for that. And then in 2020, the NDIS came up with this role called Psychosocial Recovery Coach. I was still working in kind of the more general disability support at the time. But when I saw that role come up, I just kind of set my sights on that and thought, okay, that's what I want to do. And that's where I'm at. Yeah. I also just found that a lot of people working in kind of that support work role also shied away from that.
Oh, okay.
So I think, like I said, psychosis can be a bit scary sometimes. And just the stigma around it. But the more you know, the less scary it is. But yeah, so I just found that people would shy away from it. And look, I mean, to get into the nitty gritty, I won't go too much into this, but for people with schizophrenia, for example, they have all those what are called positive symptoms, the hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized thoughts. They're called positive symptoms because they're added experience, not because they're positive in the way that we would think of the word.
Got it.
But in schizophrenia, there's also negative symptoms, and they are much less talked about.
Okay.
And so people who have a diagnosis of schizophrenia might also have those negative symptoms, which are subtracted functions, basically. So the main ones that I find have a real impact are the lack of ability to experience pleasure, which is called anhedonia.
Okay.
And an extreme lack of motivation. It's called avolition.
That would be hard.
Yeah. So I think that some people tend to get a bit frustrated when they're working with people. And again, if you don't know that those things are a symptom of that diagnosis, it can be easy to fall into the trap of thinking, this person's just being lazy. They're just saying no for the hell of it. Yeah. So I think just having that knowledge from my studies as well, just helped me to kind of approach those situations with a bit more empathy and compassion and just patience as well.
Yeah, see, I didn't know about schizophrenia either. And yeah, it's sad to see, like, to hear that there are a lot of people that shy away from that kind of work. But that is something that I've noticed as well, being within the system myself, but then also now like working in it. There is still so much stigma around those more complex like mental health disorders as well. So yeah, it's a shame that we're still in that place today, even though I see a shift happening. Yeah. Would you agree?
There is. I mean, yeah.
A slow-moving shift.
I feel like that this is the last thing to be addressed, though. You know, there's definitely a shift around ableism and things like that, and a lot more awareness. But like I said before, you still see it quite commonly used in the media. People will say like, oh, it was a psychotic killer on the loose and things like that. It's like, well, that's not really what psychotic means. Yeah. But it's just in the common vernacular, and we've still got a way to go. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. That was really interesting. If someone's never heard of Psychosocial Recovery Coach, what do you actually do week to week? Like, talk to me like I'm 12.
It can be really hard to summarize, to be honest. I might need to talk to you like you're 30 to start off with.
All right. We'll just start there. I'm 33, by the way.
Sorry. So this is also going to be really dry, but I promise it's going to get better. So there's this role within the NDIS kind of world called support coordination, right? And people who are participants within the NDIS, people who get NDIS funding, usually will get a portion of funding so they can hire a support coordinator. And that's a person that essentially helps that person to use their funding in the most effective way possible. So they'll be the person to go looking for the right kind of therapists and support workers and things that person's funded for. And so psychosocial recovery coaching falls within that same bracket as support coordination. So sometimes that constitutes a significant kind of portion of my role. But quite often I also work with people who already have a support coordinator on board, which frees me up then to focus more on the actual psychosocial recovery. Yes. And so in a nutshell, that can look like supporting people to build their confidence, build their independence, motivation, but then also just more doing maybe like helping them get out of the house, do those, live a good life, essentially, do the things that we'll do.
Life things.
Fundamental things. It can get a little bit more complex as well, like helping people to find accommodation and that type of thing. But yeah, in a nutshell, it's really helping people to build their capacity to function in life to the degree that anyone else would be able to. Yeah.
So what mental health disorders kind of fall under the bracket of like a psychosocial disability?
So like I said, it's kind of any mental health issue that is debilitating, I guess.
Yep.
But I would say most of the people I work with have a diagnosis of schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And, but, you also see other similar kind of diagnoses within that vein. So like schizotypal personality disorder, complex PTSD, generalized anxiety, if it gets to the point where it's, extreme enough to, have a real impact on someone's daily life. Depression. So there's a whole range of things, really. There's probably too many to name.
Yes.
But the short answer is most of the people I work with have that schizophrenia diagnosis.
Okay. But so it's more like categorized under like how debilitating, it is, rather than diagnosis.
Yeah. The NDIS calls it an impairment. So again, probably not what I would call it, but that's how they classify it as, what's the degree to which you're impaired by this condition. So, yeah. Yeah,
because I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD, so could have been on the NDIS this whole time.
Potentially, yeah. You have to. If only you knew someone who could navigate the NDIS.
If only I knew someone. Oh, it's all right. I think I'm in a space of like recovery in that side of things, and still getting therapy and all that jazz. But that one definitely could be quite debilitating as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that was really interesting, actually. When methamphetamine use and serious mental illness overlap, what tends to go wrong both for the person and within the system?
So I think it's important to reiterate that mental health challenges and substance use in general often go hand in hand.
Co-occurring for sure.
Absolutely. There's not always,
it's rare
can
though.
have one without the other.
It's rare.
Yeah. But quite often those things will go hand in hand.
Yes.
And that relationship can go both ways, right? Yeah. So someone who's having mental health challenges might turn to drugs and alcohol
to cope and deal with the symptoms.
100%.
Yeah.
But then the drugs and alcohol can make the mental health challenges worse, or they could be the onset of mental health challenges.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then when we talk about psychosis in particular, there's a range of substances that could cause drug-induced psychosis, but by far and away, methamphetamines are the most closely tied to drug-induced psychosis. So I think the stat is around 50% of people that use meth will experience psychosis, and that might not even just be like in that moment that they're using, but for months after. So with that in mind, if you then imagine someone with schizophrenia, for example, who is, let's say they're medicated with an antipsychotic, doesn't completely get rid of their hallucinations and delusions, but it's helping.
Yes.
But then that person's also using methamphetamines. So the methamphetamines then cause psychosis, hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thoughts. And I might then I might notice that there's, this person's using, their symptoms are getting much worse. If I was to then go to their community mental health case manager or even their psychiatrist, for example, and say, hey, I think it might be worth reviewing this person's medication because their psychosis is getting worse, their hallucinations are troubling them a lot more. Same can be said with their delusions. Disorganized thoughts and actions are getting them in trouble with police, maybe. In all likelihood, those services are going to turn around and say they're using substances. We can't be playing with their medications right now because we don't know where the schizophrenia ends and how it interacts. But it's also like, well, if we reduce or increase any medications, if they're still using substances, it's not going to make a difference because that's going to be inducing the psychosis. So, yeah, that can be really difficult. It just puts everyone a bit of a stalemate, I guess. So yeah, that can be really hard. And then if you kind of throw the complexity of, say, that person's cognition and whether they are able to, they have the capacity to make decisions for their own health and well-being. And then that plays into, okay, they're using, do they understand how to do that as safely as possible, as hygienically as possible?
Yes.
You know, how to make sure they're not in really precarious situations. That just adds another layer of complexity to that whole situation.
Yes.
And then that's when you start looking at just harm minimization. How can we keep this person, you know, out of hospital or prison or worse, really? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really hard because I know as well, like, how do you find it when even people are going to the hospitals with having episodes of psychosis? Like, I know from my own experience, I'm still seeing a lot of, I don't know, I don't always feel like there's as much compassion, I guess, coming in at that point of time, especially if it is like drug related specifically, whether or not there's a mental health disorder connected to it or not. Usually it is, but I just find that the response as well is often quite, like, they get frustrated. They're just like, like, you know, they're doing it to themselves. Like, now they're taking up a lot of our space and resources. And that's just what I've witnessed in ED anyway. But I don't know. I don't know if that's something that you've seen much of.
Sometimes, but I've seen the other end of the spectrum where there's been a lot of compassion and understanding as well. So like a lot of things, I think it just depends who you get, like literally the person that you get.
The day as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what's been going on in the department.
If it's a Friday night, you know, you're going to be in that ED for kind of 4 or 5 hours until someone takes you seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, there's also different models of care, right? So I was lucky enough to, when I was a support worker, to work for an organization that was very heavily kind of based on like a person-centered kind of model.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's the way I was introduced to working in this kind of space, and that's what I've tried to bring into my work now as well. You know, whereas somewhere like a hospital or a GP office or similar, probably be working more under that medical model of looking at just the facts. What's medically going on? What are the causes? What's the treatment? Not necessarily looking at, okay, like what does this person really need as a human being right now? So I guess not always, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's easy for me to say that, but you know, and even considering as well the pressures that a lot of the staff in hospitals are under as well, and just the workload in itself, how difficult that can be. It would be hard to hold, I guess, compassion continuously.
And look, if you're the person that is going through psychosis and you're in the waiting room at ED at that time, you might be feeling a bit paranoid. So it could be easy to actually think, oh, these people are judging me and they don't care.
Yes, true.
So
it probably wouldn't even matter.
Yeah. But look, I've definitely been there with a few people, and you do get, unfortunately, funny looks from other people usually waiting in the emergency department. And that just comes back to a lot of that stigma that we talked about before.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that people might be going through psychosis without any involvement of drugs as well.
Exactly, yes.
And they get judged. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something I like to remind people about as well, just on social media, when it comes to talking about, you know, if you're seeing someone like having or looking like they're in some kind of mental health crisis, like don't make the assumptions that it is drug-induced, because there are like mental health disorders that can cause that. So 100%. I think, that's definitely an important thing to keep rehashing.
Definitely. Yep.
How do you tell the difference between someone who needs more structure versus more autonomy in recovery?
So what I've always said, and this kind of goes for any job, but especially I think working in this space, is that rapport is one of, if not the most important things to start with.
Yeah.
So I think, that starts with just getting to know the person and what they need, what their preferences are, but then also being observant and checking in regularly will give you a good idea as to, okay, how's the structure working versus how's the autonomy working?
Yes.
And those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive. You could have kind of both of those things working in tandem.
Yes.
But yeah, I think just being observant and seeing that if things seem to be kind of falling away at the seams, maybe a little bit more structure needs to be introduced. Conversely, if someone's handling it and they're doing pretty well, they're building their independence, getting things done, then that structure can actually start to feel like restriction. Yeah. So that's where a little step back and a bit more autonomy might be better. Yeah. But those two situations could be the same person at different points in time, right? Yes. So it's also about being flexible and recognizing what they need and when. Yeah. And I work with people who will tell me as well. They'll tell me, I've moved into this new supported accommodation and there's all these rules. I love it. And then someone else might say, I've moved into this place and there's all these rules. I fucking hate it. It's, so yeah.
Yes, true. I was about to ask you, I was like, what is that? Like, what is structure a lot of the time for some of the people you work with?
It varies. It depends. Yeah. For some people it's routine. It can be a really big one. But then also, it might be rules that are set out without being too restrictive because the NDIS has guidelines around that. But, I definitely work with a couple of people who respond really well to just having someone in their life to say, you just got to be home by 10 and you can't bring people over to the house and things like that. So, some people might not respond so well to that. It's really person by person. Yeah,
of course. And it's also that where they're at in regards to the state of change as well. So no, that makes total sense. Speaking a little bit more on the work that you do, so you're not always working in offices or clinics. So what does your support look like out in the community?
I'm hardly ever in offices or clinics, actually.
That's
I'm
so
out
good.
and about
I love
a lot
that.
of the
I'm
time.
jealous.
I do. I definitely count myself quite lucky to be able to do that. Still get a decent amount of steps in every day. And
that's so good.
I'm out in the weather, whatever it might be though. So
cyclones or not.
I love it. I support people who live in a range of different situations at the moment. People who might be living at home with family, living independently in a rental, currently in hospital, in supported accommodation, or living on the streets as well.
Right, okay.
So, and generally I'll go out to visit those people where they're at. So usually that's where they're living, but sometimes they might prefer to go to a local cafe or library or even to just go out for a drive, go for a walk in nature. Those settings tend to be really good for having a nice D&M kind of thing. So it's really kind of, that's what it looks like, is me going to check in on people and talk with them about building their independence, what their goals are, how can we take small steps to achieve those goals. But then also, one way I like to describe my job is it kind of sits on a spectrum of anywhere between being a support worker and then being a more specialized kind of role, almost like a social worker.
Yeah, okay.
And depending on who I'm working with and where they're at, I might be operating anywhere along that spectrum at any given time. So, on a Monday morning, I might be helping someone to go and get their groceries in because they don't have the confidence to go out into the public by themselves. And then on the Monday afternoon, I might be frantically trying to find someone crisis accommodation because they've been kicked out of their house and they're imminently living on the streets.
Yes.
You know, so, and then the next morning I might be getting reports together from various therapists to try and advocate for more NDIS funding for someone. And then later that day, I might be taking someone to the local swimming pool to try and build their confidence to get back into a hobby that they enjoy. So
it's quite a different day each day.
No 2 days are the same in general. Yeah. So it's a varied role. You know, a lot of pressure, but you know, a lot of kind of reward and good times as well. Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite thing like about this work?
Definitely achieving outcomes for people.
Yeah.
So when you can really kind of tick a box for someone, you know, like I mentioned, people being kicked out of their house and having to find them accommodation. So when you can get someone into a situation where they were going to be on the streets that night and they no longer are.
Yeah.
And because of the hard work that myself and the rest of their support network have put in, that I feel like is a good time to give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah.
But then also, like last week I went bushwalking with someone because that's what he wanted to do and that's where he felt most comfortable talking about the things we needed to talk about. And you know, I was like, I'm getting paid for this. It was,
spending time out in nature. This is awesome.
It was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. So, there's a few good things about the role. Being my own boss is not bad as well.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Because when did you found your business?
I'm terrible with time frames. It's been just over 2 years.
Okay. So still fairly like new.
Yep. Yeah. So I was working kind of part-time while I was working in a job. And then, just my caseload was building and building. Yep. I was fortunate enough to be working for a company that gave me a lot of flexibility to take on my own work.
Great.
Till the point where I was just like, I've got to leave now because
I've just, the nest.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well done.
Thank you.
That's so good. So for people listening who are in Perth and thinking, this sounds like what I need, who are your services for? I know we've touched a bit on that already.
Yep.
And where can they get in touch with you?
So as a psychosocial recovery coach, I generally support people who are NDIS participants.
Yes, yeah.
And then usually those people would have funding for psychosocial recovery coaching, which generally means they've been diagnosed with a psychosocial disability as their primary diagnosis, but not always. You know, some people, different diagnoses might still have funding for psychosocial recovery coaching. Yeah. So that's generally who I work with. But that's not to say I couldn't work with people who don't have NDIS funding. You know, if there's people that need the support, but for whatever reason they don't want to or can't be on the NDIS, you know, my services are still available. I charge the rate that is kind of recommended by the NDIS.
Of course.
So
yes.
Yeah, that's but as for where you can find me, probably my website. I mean, we were speaking a little bit kind of off air before about my socials being terrible. So
don't look at the
socials.
Don't
even bother with Instagram at this stage.
There's like one post.
I'm just not good at it. Like I said, not on TikTok or anything. I just know I'm not. I know my strengths. And that's
fine.
So yeah, I'd say my website. So that's chameleonrecovery.com.au, CHAMELEON recovery.com.au.
Perfect.
And you'll see in the top right of the page, there's an inquiries button that'll take you through to like a 5-10 minute form to fill out. That comes straight through to me. But all my contact information's on the website as well. There's a frequently asked questions page. There's resources to other services and stuff as well. So yeah, check out the website, chameleonrecovery.com.au.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. And just to wrap it up, if someone listening has been bounced between mental health and AOD services and feels like they don't fit anywhere, what would you want to say to them?
I think I would say there's nothing wrong with you just because you don't fit neatly into a box or a particular service. most of us wouldn't fit into neatly into a particular service.
There's lots of silos as well.
100%. And, you know, we're humans, we're complicated.
Yes.
And the services are generally pretty rigid. And that's often by design, right? It can be protective of the people working in those systems.
Yes, absolutely.
But it just means that, people do get bounced around a little bit. They're often kind of working with multiple different services at the same time. But sometimes it also takes like a connective services like myself or a support coordinator or a case manager to let them know where those different services lie. But that's the main thing I would say. There's nothing wrong with you if you don't fit neatly into a box there. But just know that the people working in those services are generally doing it because they want to. They have the best intentions. And sometimes it just takes finding the person that clicks with you.
Yes.
And is willing to maybe go the extra mile. So persist.
Yeah,
basically.
keep looking. Yeah.
Keep going until you find that person. Yeah, and there's lots of those people working in the services that are out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Tom.
Thank you.
This has been such a good conversation. I think it's a really important one as well as, you know, I guess we don't talk about these things as much as we should. So thank you for getting that conversation started.
No, thank you for having this podcast and giving people a space to talk about these things. Yeah, it's
Anytime.
like reduces that stigma that we talked about. So, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Paris.